Valve dropped 4 new heroes into the mix last week, and saying they're strong is definitely an understatement. The playstyle of the heroes is pretty well understood though, and just like any other hero in the game, if they start to snowball, you'll want to know some good counter item picks and strategies to play around them. In today's video, I'm going to review some of the strategies for countering each hero and show you some common techniques to shut them down in game. You'll be seeing them a lot, and most of the community considers them OP, so you'll want to know how to beat them. Let's get started with Vyper. Vyper is a bullet damage centric character, will be shooting you a lot. They'll feel a lot like an overpowered gun build Ivy. Vyper will also be sliding around a lot to get infinite ammo and boosted stats while shooting. This is going to be strong early on, and you'll likely not want to engage him. An important rule to always remember with Vyper though is to stand your ground. Vyper is very squishy and very fast. He'll rush in for a burst of damage that can feel terrifying, and many people's first instinct is to understandably run away. Unfortunately, because he has increased speed, slide distance, and can slide up ramps, there's no chance in getting away from a Vyper who wants to stick to you. You really have to force him off you. Stand your ground and burst him right back to make him think twice about rushing at you. Keep your gun on him as you disengage. Vyper's 2, Lethal Venom, injects your character with venom that explodes after a 3-second buildup period. This does more damage the lower you are on health and can be considered a delayed executability that they will use to kill you a lot. To avoid this, don't get cocky at low health and stick around. Get your healing right box route in or go back to the base to heal up. If he uses this on you and engages you in a fight, you may feel like you've escaped and got away, only to die to the delayed explosion at low health. Another reason why you should shoot back and go for the kill on him, as this move can often seal your fate either way, so it's best to go for the trade. Extra regen should always be your first defensive item against Vyper in lane. This will keep you healthy early on to avoid having to run back to the base and heal, and staying out of the execute range of his venom ability, which he will use on you to kill you if you're low. Extra regen also builds into another great counter item for Vyper, Return Fire. This active fires back at them for every bullet they shoot at you, letting you clap back at the Vyper and win the fight easily. Next, we'll talk about Calico. Calico's early game builds usually revolve around building melee related items that boost your damage and healing with Spirit Strike and Melee Lifesteal as their core first items. This is because Calico's 2, Leaping Slash, counts as a melee hit, which means it will trigger all of her on-hit effects from melees and do additional damage and healing. Because of this, her melees will hit like a truck. And even though she seems small and harmless, her punches hit as hard or harder than this big blue guy's sometimes. God forbid you play against both of them in a game, you better know how to parry. Parry is standard hotkey F skill that every character starts with that counters melee hits. Parry stuns a punching opponent for nearly 3 seconds and increases the melee damage they take. This gives you time to dish out 2 heavy melees in return, giving you a heap of damage that is often a guaranteed kill. Make sure you time it right though, because if you miss parry, you'll be a sitting duck and won't be able to parry again for another 5 seconds. A great technique I learned to helping with parrying is to go to the sandbox into this room and practice parrying against this dummy with your eyes closed. Listen to the sound of the heavy melee windup and parry instinctively with your ears, so your brain is listening to the audio cue and teaching you to react to it properly. It might feel a little bit weird at first, but trust me, you'll get the hang of it in a few minutes. Now that we know more about parrying, let's think about how to use this more effectively against Calico players. Just like with Abrams' shoulder charge or Lash's ground strike, there are some predictable indicators that Calico is coming in for melees that you should be on the lookout for. Leaping Slash cannot be parried. Don't try this, I already tested it. After Calico performs her Leaping Slash though, she's in close range, and as a hero with additional melee damage, it's a good chance she's going to look for an opportunity to punch you. Do not insta-parry, but mentally prep yourself for the sound and visual cues of the melee and react instinctively to swing the fight in your favor. If you are low on health, at close range, and going to lose the fight anyways, sometimes it's better to parry as a desperate last-ditch effort. People that play these characters are hardwired to want to melee, especially when low or out of ammo. And if you can counter a quick melee that would otherwise kill you, you can 180 a fight onto them, or give yourself time to escape. It's also worth noting that Calico's 1, the cluster bombs, is very hard to aim at mid-range due to its delay, and only works reliably if the enemy is running directly towards you or away from you, so sidestepping is very helpful to dodge this move against Calico players. Calico's ult, where she disappears into the shadows and reappears, can be confusing and hard to get out of if you're not familiar with it. Calico gets 50% increased speed in the ult to chase down her enemies, so remember these tips when she uses this and make sure you don't get hit by the second tick of damage when she returns to reality with a bang. She cannot dash or jump during the ultimate, and damage does not hit outside of line of sight. meaning the easiest way to get out is to find the nearest wall or height point you can access and get up away from her. This move takes exactly 3 seconds every time. She cannot pop it early, so make sure if you're going to dodge roll out of it, you wait until just before it ends and not right when it starts, so she can't just chase you down after you land. Restorative Locket is by far the best early game item to beat Calico in lane. This item's base stats provides 10% spirit resist and 25% melee resist, which really reduces her ability to bruise you with her cat slash, melees, and bombs. She also has very short cooldowns on all her abilities and will be using them frequently to give you more stacks and pop a heal on yourself in a pinch to win a 1v1 duel. This has even higher value in duo lanes as you get more stacks for better healing. This is a mandatory first defensive buy against her in lane. Slowing Hex is also massive against Calico. Just like Shiv and Abrams, Slowing Hex will not only stop her from using her 2 leaping slash, but also her ult, Return from Shadows. This essentially silences the character and acts as a cheap curse item at 1,750 souls. There's also a short delay preventing her from using cat form, though I'm not sure if that is intended or not. This is an easy buy on a short cooldown that will shut down any Calico player. Healbane is also a really good item to pick up against her. Just like with Abrams, she'll be doing a lot of healing early on from melee strikes against you and other minions. Ethereal Shift can be perfect for dodging her ult, as it will make you immune during the ult and from its final damage. When in doubt, always build spirit armor, especially with the gun nerfs this week. Generally, you want to keep your distance from this cat if you don't want to get scratched. Holliday is about the opposite of Calico, where distance will get you killed. Holiday's early lane pressure needs her to hit her shots to be effective. These tips apply to both spirit and gun builds on her, as spirit scaling on Crackshot is gross. Her bullets might have drop off, but her Crackshot passive 3 does not. Her early game damage from this ability is insane right now, and with its short cooldown, expect her to try to hit you with this once every 10 to 20 seconds. Use cover to your advantage and focus on farming early to outscale her. A good player on this hero is disgusting. When they don't miss, it can be very oppressive in lane. So how do we stop her from crackshotting us? It's a passive and all she has to do is click on my head. I'm cooked, Swish. Wrong. There are ways to play around this. Crackshot also triggers from Holliday shooting minions, and this will go on cooldown for a shorter duration if she headshots a minion with this. Try to pay attention to when she will have this Crackshot available, and keep her out of your line of sight or LOS to force her to use this on a minion to last hit instead of on your face. Listen for the Crackshot sound cue, and when you hear it, that means you have 10 seconds to poke with an advantage.
Actually, theoretically, a perfect Holliday player would just body shot minions to last hit to avoid triggering this and poke effectively.
Listen, if you're playing against someone that's sweating that hard, you might as well close the game, uninstall, pack your bags, and move back in with your parents, because it's over. A visual indicator for Crackshot is that she will glow yellow and her gun will have a yellow aura around it. This means that she has a Crackshot available for her next headshot. If her gun is glowing, don't show your face. Dodging the barrels is relatively straightforward, just dodge, kick W, but seriously, they're so slow. Unless she's dropping them in your face, you shouldn't be getting hit. She can also shoot them when they're rolling next to you, and the range can be big with upgrades, so step away from them, or she can knock you up and chain them together to keep you there. She can bounce them or punch them to launch them through the air, so keep your eye on her if she's in the distance arming the artillery. Her stomp damage on bounce pads only applies to the first jump, and she will glow orange mid-air, so yeah, if you see her drop one and make her first jump towards you, chances are you're about to get slammed, but know that it can't happen twice on the same pad. It's important to remember that you cannot use any items after you're hit by Spirit Lasso, so make sure you use Ethereal Shift, Warp Stone, Unstoppable, or Evasive Movement, as this skill shot is not easy to hit on an erratic target. Reactive Barrier works great against her, and it will trigger from her stun, from her bounce pad, and her ult. Slowing Hex will remove her bounce pad ability, but most importantly, pay attention to her build paths, Spirit versus Bullet, and the damage of the enemy team combined, and counter accordingly with defenses. Lastly, let's touch on the magnificent Sinclair, also known as What the Fuck Just Hit Me. This character is still very rough around the edges, and I'm making this video just after his release in January, so just know if you're watching this later, some things may have changed. Right now, there's only one way to play Sinclair, and that's his Omega Spirit Damage Vexing Bolts that feel like you get instantly banished to the Shadow Realm. His early game is not great though, so abuse him at range as much as you can, because most of his abilities and gunshots are slower and harder to hit. Always go for Spirit Armor against the Magician, that's a no-brainer, but how else can we shut down this magnificent, dapper aristocrat? The best way is to exploit how slow he and his abilities are by getting faster yourself. His gun has the slowest bullet velocity in the game, meaning he has to have a crystal ball and scry into the future to figure out where you're going to be in 0.5 seconds in order to hit you. Getting extra stamina and or sprint boots and moving more unpredictably can make it impossible to get hit. Landing a vexing bolt on you, let alone 2, will be hopeless for him. Just be careful when re-peeking the same corner more than once. Reactive barrier can be another good item that will trigger every time he turns you into a bunny, so you'll have armor to keep your newly acquired whiskers from getting singed off by the burst that follows the hex. Especially good in duo lanes. Slowing hex has good value against him as well, as it will prevent him from switching to his assistant on his 2. That's all for my tips today, guys. If you learned something new, give me a like. If you hated it, give me a dislike. Drop a comment below if there's a counter I missed out on the community should be aware of. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos if you like my content. I'm Swishtari, thanks, and GG's.